Welcome to the Money Savvy Parents podcast, the podcast for entrepreneurial parents to work towards becoming financially invincible to then pass that vital life skill down through the generations. I am your host, Laura, mother to 3 beautiful children and founder, financial strategist for Savvy Peacocks. Each week, we'll be delving into a new money topic to get you and your family more money savvy. Let's remove the taboo from money together. Hi everybody, welcome back to my podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in again. I have got a wonderful guest with me today, which, as where most of my guests come from these days, actually, I met the wonderful Laura Beddoe through Clubhouse. So welcome, Laura. Great to see your face instead of just your voice.
Yeah, I was just saying before we came on live that it is lovely to see your face because we speak to each other nearly every day. So it is lovely. And I'm sure that we will get to meet in real life and have a little hug and have a little squidge.
Can you imagine when we're all together? It's just going to be amazing when we all get together. So for those of you that don't know, I'm sure you will have heard me talk about it. I run a daily room on Clubhouse called Savvy Women. So there's a group of us, maybe like 10, that practically talk to eeach other every day. Most of us have never met. I've met a few of people and a few others have met each other, but we'd love to get us all together. And can you imagine the squeals and the hugs and it would be brilliant. I can't wait. So thank you so much for coming onto the podcast. Do you want to just share a little bit about who Laura is?
Yeah, of course. So firstly, I just want to say thank you so much for inviting me onto the podcast because it's an honour to be invited into your space and to be able to talk to your community. And that's one of my key values is connection. I just love building communities. It's just part of my makeup. So thank you for inviting me in. So starting off, I am a spiritual life coach and I predominantly help women that are stuck in the survival mode. And I really help them to excel, bridge the gap, to start to thrive. And when I say thrive, I really mean lean into financial freedom and time freedom and pleasure, because so many of us are just carrying around all of this baggage and going through life, just plodding along, thinking that that is just what it is. And so many women are now waking up to the fact that life doesn't have to be like that. And there is so much more than giving and giving and giving to other people, and it just lights up my soul that I am helping women worldwide to transform their lives. And I do that with a number of modalities. I am a qualified hypnotherapist, so I bring that into my work. I'm a Reiki master, so I really work on women on an energetic level. And I am all about universal laws. So I combine all of that to really aid that transformation. I'm really excited to be talking to you and parents that are going to be listening about money and what money really is, because a lot of us put money on a pedestal. I did for a very long time.
So before we delve into that, I've got a question for you, because you highlighted something really important there, which is about pleasure. We all are on that rabbit wheel and we're just getting on with life. And sometimes I know definitely some months just pass me by and I think, what have I actually done for myself this month? So do you think there's like a point in our lives when we stop prioritizing ourselves? And also, do you think that women are worse at doing that than men?
So to answer the first part of your question, I don't know. I think it depends on your conditioning. So for me, the reason that I am so passionate about helping women predominantly is because I didn't have nurturing and I didn't have that conditioning of parents telling me how wonderful I was or showing me how to live. I didn't have that. I wasn't brought up, I was dragged up. Well, it's been a journey, Laura. I promise you that. And because I didn't have those fundamental, I didn't have security, I didn't have basic needs. I didn't have my basic needs met. I wasn't taught about nutrition. I wasn't taught about what a healthy relationship looked like. So for me, I was kind of set up to fail, if you like. If you have all of those lovely foundations, I think potentially, yes, you will go off into the world and learn that you need to pamper and nurture yourself and have that pleasure. But I think me and you are in the same generation here. I'm a millennial. I was born in the 80s. I think a lot of our parents, it's because their conditioning was, you've got to pull up your socks and get on with it, you know. And I know that's very British, and my audience is it's global. So yes and no is the answer to that question. I think that there are women absolutely that are abundant and know to look after themselves and put on that oxygen mask first before they serve everybody else. But a massive, massive percentage of women, is specifically in the UK, that are abandoning their own needs.
I think it happens when we become parents. I think I can identify my friends that don't have children or that are still single. They are still very much abundance for themselves, looking after themselves, prioritizing themselves. They actually end up, I can name a few of my friends that are now in their 40s that have got to a point where they've actually become quite selfish, because they've become so sort of like self-centered and looking after themselves. So I do think it's a balance, because there is something quite special about prioritizing other people around you and nurturing and creating that safe space, like you've talked about, is really important for our children. But you have got to balance that out with looking after yourself. I know the times when I haven't got my children and I take the time back and I restore myself and look after myself, and I've been lucky enough to even have holidays without my children, I come back as a better parent. It's incredible, the difference, all for about 10 minutes, but I am a better parent, you know, and they're probably a better child because they value me more, because they've had periods of time without me.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I love that. And I love your honesty with that as well, that you're saying that it's heart, that distance makes the heart grow fonder, right? I know that when I've had time away from my children, so I've got an 18-year-old and a 2-year-old, so I've got really, really massive age gap, and I wasn't like this 10 years ago. So my son hasn't had this version of me for the whole time. And I can honestly say that because of my conditioning, I was very selfish. So I completely understand what you're saying. And I didn't get that balance right with my son. And I have a lot of guilt and shame that is, I have to work on, you know, around that stuff, because I was so young. I had him, I was a baby. I've had a child half of my life. I'm 36 and I have an 18-year-old. So yes, absolutely. And I mean, I was still a fantastic mum, and I have to give myself credit for that, because he is amazing. But there are things that I think I wish I didn't do that. It's definitely about that balance. I'm really happy that you brought that up. I also have clients that don't have children in their 40s, and I think they struggle in other areas. So when we say that self-centered selfishness, that also comes from a place of fear. That also comes from a place of not having one of our basic needs, is why we act out the way that we do. And that's what I'm about. I'm about helping people to really balance those basic needs. And the answer to your second part of your question is, I can't remember what you said. Is it predominantly women, I think you said?
Yeah, I'm just interested to know from your perspective whether you think that women are worse at prioritizing their own needs over men.
Do you know what? I don't think there is gender difference. I think that we are very conditioned to think that men are selfish, but I think men struggle with their own S.
Yeah.
Men have they have to carry a lot of weight on their shoulders. Yes, of course, there are men that are selfish, but they're always, what I find with a lot of my clients is they come in saying that their husband is very selfish and pointing the finger, blah, 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 it's him, it's him, it's him. But when I ask them the question, have you asked for help?
Yeah. That's exactly what I was going to say. Like, there's lots of assumptions, isn't there? And I probably did that myself when I was married. Like, I would assume I'm not going to ask him for help because that's part of my responsibility and I'll be putting on him. And I didn't even cross my mind to think that we're both parents and we both have a joint responsibility. So however much maybe there were times when he didn't come forward, there were definitely plenty of times when I didn't ask because I was worried about putting on him or sharing, or then having to worry about my own mum guilt, which is what's been amazing since our divorce, to be honest, because it's been an amicable, friendly divorce and we're now co-parenting. We don't have that issue because it's all completely equal. We make joint decisions about the children far better than we did when we were together, far better, which is, it's amazing. And I really do think that early years conditioning that you were talking about at the start of the interview is going to really help my children, that they see that from their parents, even though we're not together.
I love that you said that. It's so beautiful. It's made me love you so much more, Laura, because there's so many women that they're just so, and I was one of those. I was definitely one of those women that I didn't like men at all. I really didn't like men because my mum and my nan were constantly saying to me that men are no good, men are all the same. How many women do you know that say men are all the same? Men aren't all the same.
Not true.
They're really not. I have got an amazing partner. I couldn't ask for more from him. He is just so in his sovereignty. He is just wonderful. And we both run our own businesses. So we, like today, you know, he's looking after our daughter whilst she's actually asleep, but
he's on call.
Yes. And I love something that Holly Willoughby, I can't ever say
Holly Willoughby.
it's not Holly Willoughby, it's the other one, Fern Cotton.
Oh yeah.
One of her recent podcasts that she gets shamed by women on her Instagram, sometimes by women saying you're never with your children. And, you know, like you just said, it is our responsibility to choose to wake up, and it's because she does sort of meditation and prayer and things like that in the morning, which is something that I do. I wake up a little bit earlier to do it, and my daughter has a dad that is here. My son has a dad which isn't present in his life at all, so I can't ask him for help. My partner, who I'm getting married to next year, a year next month.
I'll wait for the invite, just saying.
That he's more like my son's dad.
Yeah, of course.
And you know, it's okay to, this is the key message, if anyone's listening to this, is it's okay to ask for help.
Yeah.
I used to be so bad asking anybody for help.
Yeah, and it doesn't matter, because I know there'll be lots of true single parents out there, because I don't class myself as a single parent, but we're not necessarily talking about partners. It's anybody. It's your aunties, your uncles, your parents. Ask for help. You're not supposed to do it all on your own. And don't they say, like, it takes a village to raise a child? You're not supposed to do it all on your own. They need to have that variety. Friends, anybody that's around, yeah, don't ever deal with everything all on your own. It's never going to end well. So you mentioned in your introduction about financial freedom and money and how people kind of put that on a pedestal. So everyone's got a little bit of a different opinion with this. So I'm interested to know from your perspective, what experience have you had with your clients around their relationships with money, and what do you deem as financial freedom?
So for me, I work with women that are impulsive, that usually don't track their money, and they feel very blocked around creating what they want. Manifesting is another word you can use for creating. Manifestation is a hype word that is very thrown around, and I am a manifestation coach, but in simple layman's terms, all that manifestation means is creation. Your non-physical, so your thoughts, becoming reality. And if you think of a skyscraper, how it's built, it is, where is it built first? It is built in the architect's mind, and then it's put onto a piece of paper, and then it's in physical form. So predominantly that's what I'm doing with my clients, is I am helping them to create whatever it is. So a lot of people come to me thinking that they want more money. Okay, now what I do is I help them to see, is it really that they want money, or is it that they're conditioned to think that they should have X amount in the bank? And 90% of the time, when we map it all out and get it onto a piece of paper, what they originally think that they want is nowhere near what they need. I am, as I said, an energy master, and I believe that we all have a higher self, and unless you're in complete alignment with that higher self, that skyscraper is going to have detours. So that's what I really help with, to see how you're going to get to where you want to be, and are you asking for enough for what you need, what you think you need, and yeah, just really getting into alignment with your truth. Not because of Claire over the road has got a Range Rover, so I want one. What is your makeup? What do you need? So for me, what does financial freedom mean? It means that I can live without worrying about money, and knowing that I'm supported, and knowing that I have overflow to support me. And I never had that. You know, the reason, again, that I'm so passionate about this is because I just love what you do, Laura, and I'm so fascinated with it, because I needed a you when I was 16.
Yeah.
I didn't have anybody to tell me how to manage money or how to manage my finances. So as I said, I had my son very young. I was 17 when I got pregnant, and I was given a credit card, and I had this little flat, and I got out loans and all sorts of things because I was keeping up with the Joneses. I wanted this plush lifestyle, and I didn't need any of that stuff. I wish that I could reclaim all of the money that I spent in my early 20s. Honestly, it is sickening how much money I wasted and just peed up the wall. And that's because I didn't know how to manage money at all. I didn't like the boring bits of writing down money and how to manage it, and getting my accounts in. Yeah, all of that stuff I now pass to somebody else.
It's interesting though, because even though you were a parent and you had that responsibility, it sounds like you still had the same approach with money that most early 20-somethings have, is that they don't think about savings, and they don't think about the long term, and they are in the here and now, and they like to be sporadic and buy the latest trend, and perhaps, like you say, go out and enjoy themselves, which I am glad to hear that you still did, even though you had a young son. So yeah, it's interesting that even though you had that responsibility, there still wasn't something that triggered, which kind of proves that it is about the education, not about the circumstance, because we do all need to be taught about money, but we need to be taught about the bigger picture, the bigger value in it. It's not just me saying to you, you need to save for this, that, and the other. It's what opportunities and what choices and what doors that open, so that, in line with what you were saying really about manifesting, being able to make all your dreams come true, be able to have that comfort, be able to not worry about money. And it sounds to me like what you were maybe demonstrated as a child was probably where it came from. You know, money probably wasn't talked about. You weren't shown that, you know, you can do great things if you have used that money in the right way. And it's not about how much you've got, it's what you do with it. So none of those messages came through for you.
And one message that I've had to really decondition myself from, and that I have to work with my clients on, most of them, is money doesn't grow on trees, and lack and scarcity mindset of there isn't enough. And the way that I used to have a relationship with money was, if I had it, I had to spend it quickly because it wasn't safe.
Yeah, that's so common. That's so common. I mean, I have to even catch myself. You know what it's like with kids, they're asking for stuff all the time, and I have to catch myself, because the messages I had, similar to what you were saying, is money doesn't grow on trees, we can't afford that. Saying those things also has such a subliminal message to our children. So I have to say, okay, well, if you want that, how are we going to pay for it? Because I haven't accounted for buying those LOL dolls. So let's work out when you can have it. Do you want to put it towards your birthday, or do we want to sell some of your toys so that you can buy those new types of toys that you want? So it's like a much bigger conversation. So I've had to like condition myself not to use those throwaway comments, because I need to live and breathe what I'm doing, and I don't want my children sort of inadvertently learning that, you know, we can't afford that, or, you know, there's not just an abundance of money. It's a balance, isn't it? So that they understand.
Absolutely. And making money fun, making money pleasurable is something that I really teach inside of my spaces, is to, if you find money, it's quite a masculine energy, and it's very strategy based and spreadsheets and those sorts of things. So what I teach my clients to do, and I know that you work with predominantly younger people, but I know that obviously you speak to the parents. So obviously with your work, I'm sure that you have to speak to the parents as well, because there's no good you teaching them how to manage money and then their parents telling them something completely different.
Yeah.
But I'm sure that parents that are investing in their children to do this kind of work with you are parents that are very loving, nurturing parents, you know.
But also a lot of what I teach in my program, most 40-somethings don't know about. So I always encourage the parents to watch the videos back as well, because they might learn something. And what I really love to do is sort of give the teenagers a little challenge to go back into the home and say, right, I want you to go back and find out about how this works in your house. Go and ask to see how much you've spent on food in the last month. I want you to break it down, or offer to do the food shopping this week and see how difficult it is. All those little sort of activities that are just going to make the parents cringe a little bit when they go back into their homes.
I think my mum could probably do with doing your course. My God, she spends so much money on food.
It's an easy one. It's an easy one to overspend for sure. So you've mentioned there that you both run your own businesses. So can you just quickly give us an overview as to how you've got to where you've got to today? Because I find you so inspirational. I know you've done your TEDx talks. I know you help people internationally. And I think the work you do is incredible, but you didn't just turn around and decide to do that one day. You've obviously come from somewhere.
Yeah. So my story is that, as I think I've mentioned at the beginning of the podcast, is I didn't have the best start in life. I had my son very young, and I was this young woman, single mum, and just found myself attracting really toxic men, abusive, physically and violent. And I actually moved 15 times in 13 years. So you can imagine that security for me was just, I didn't have it. And I didn't know how to ask what I needed. I didn't like myself at all. I was a model, but I self-loathed, and everything was just out of alignment. I didn't know I was just walking around in life not really knowing. I just thought life was happening to me. I didn't know that I could be the master of that, and I could be the, in this movie that we call life, or this book that we call life, that I can write the chapters, I can create the movie. I just thought the movie was happening to me, and it was horrible.
Yeah.
And there was this pivotal moment about 6 years ago now, that I was in a really toxic, abusive relationship, and I walked away with nothing but my 13-year-old son and 2 bin bags. And we went and found this it was put into a hostel, and I was laying on this with me and my 13-year-old son. There was literally mold growing up the walls, Laura, and I just laid on this bed, and I just remember looking at my son and thinking, this will never happen to me ever again. There was like this pivotal moment. I was like, I will never go through this ever again. I feel a bit emotional saying it.
I've got the chills.
Yeah. And it makes me emotional every time I say it, because I just had this moment. And in that moment, it's like something just activated in me. And I just found my higher self, and she started to lead the way. And she led my feet to, I went to these women's meetings where they really supported me, elevated me. I started to listen to podcasts. I started to read books, and I just transformed my life. I thought, I'm not going to get into a relationship until I love me. And it happened. And I just slowly transformed into the woman that you see now. And it just fills my heart with so much joy that sometimes I just sit in my lounge with my fiance and my daughter and see how happy my son is in his life. And I just think about that moment when I was laying on that bed with the mold going up the walls. And I just think, this is what I created, because I believed in myself and I let my higher self lead the way.
That is so powerful. So powerful. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for being so open and honest. And it's just so inspirational. So I hope someone that's listening is thinking, oh yeah, like I can resonate with that. I really hope that even if it's just one person, then our job is done. So Laura, thank you so much for being so open about that. So what is next for you? I'm sure you've got some exciting things going on. Tell us about you and your business and what's going to happen in the coming months, and where people can find you.
So as you know, I did my TED Talk live. I'm just waiting for that to go out and to be officially on the TEDx. And I didn't record it because I was just so in the moment. But I'm waiting for that. In my personal life, planning my wedding, which is happening in May. And I am currently in the launch process of my membership, which is called the Wild Woman in a Tribe. And it represents being wild in your life. As you know, I coach women on where they are to where they want to be. And I really get them into alignment with their menstrual cycle. And I teach them about the archetypes. And Wild Woman is the kind of 9 days leading up to your bleed. And it's usually, we are very conditioned to believe that part is like the worst part, right? But actually it is our inner wild woman or wise woman. She is trying to tell us what we need to surrender, let go of, to start to create, aka manifest, in the later stages of our menstrual cycle. So yeah, really exciting. I believe once this is aired, the doors will be closed, but you can definitely join the waiting list. And if you have been affected, or you feel like, oh my goodness, I resonate with so much of what Laura said, and you have that pivotal moment and you think, right, I am not going through this BS anymore, reach out to me, let's book a call, and let's see about how we can start to transform your life.
Yeah, awesome. I do have a quick question about what you've just mentioned there. I know we're close on time, but I didn't want to go. What happens if you don't know your cycle? So either you don't have periods or you don't bleed. How can you help people work that out? Because we still have some kind of cycle, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And men as well. So
Yeah,
it doesn't matter
sure.
whether you're a man or a woman, or you are going through a transition, becoming a woman, then you can still track your cycle, and it is tracked with the moon. And we have 7 chakras in the body. So that chakra is called your sacral get my words out, your sacral chakra. And that is where we create in the energetic fields. And if you want to start to track your cycle, then and just to say that the moon, if you think about the moon, it pulls the tides in and out, so it controls water. And that's why, and in prisons, they put on the calendar all of the moons, because it does something to people on full and new moons. Part of my membership, we really dive into this in loads more detail. But the full moon, if you want to track, is where on the archetypes you would be in your winter, and the new moon is where you would be in your summer, if that makes sense.
So in comparison to your cycles, those 9 days before you bleed, is that 9 days before the full moon or 9 days before the new moon?
The full moon.
9 days before the full moon. Right, I'm going to give it a go. I love moonology, and I've learned some bits from you as well. So yeah, I'm just interested. I wanted to ask just in case there was anyone listening that sort of resonates with. So where can people find you? I would love to be able to send people your way.
So www.Laura Beddoe, so Beddoe is spelled BEDDOE.com, nice and easy. And my Instagram is Laura_Beddoe_coach.mentor, and Facebook is spiritual.coach Laura Beddoe.
That was well remembered. Well done. Obviously in Clubhouse there's the 2 Lauras. So we have Savvy Laura, which is me, and TEDx Laura, which is the other Laura. So that's the easiest way we do it in Clubhouse, isn't it? So great. Thank you so much for coming along and sharing so much knowledge and power and the chills and the story. I've just loved having you. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you being here.
It's my absolute pleasure, my darling.
Thanks, Laura. For anyone that's listening still, thank you so much for being with us, and we'll see you again soon. Take care.
Thank you so much for listening to the Money Savvy Parents podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, then please subscribe to be alerted to the new episodes. If you want to learn more about your relationship with money, then start off by taking my Money Languages quiz on my website, www.savvypeacocks.co.uk. Let's remove the taboo from money together.